Hello everybody, this is Barry Johnson and welcome back to another edition of Studio Talk. Well, today I thought I'd give all you guys an update, really my first update I guess, on my official Kickin' Avid to the Curb. Let's get to it. All right. So I am like 2/3, if not all the way into my transition on kicking Avid to the freaking curb. I cannot wait to get this done and over with. I'm not going to lie. It's been a little bit harder than I wanted it to be, but some of that a little bit self-inflicted, but oh well, what are you going to do? Well, if you know anything about this channel at all, and I got a lot of videos out there talking about my feelings towards Avid's extortion program and why they could give a crap about you, go check it out anyway. So I'm a longtime Pro Tools user, love Pro Tools, but I actually hate Avid as a company, so I am bailing ship. So I get a lot of questions. A lot of people are wanting to know, okay, what has been my transition? What are the things that I'm doing? All right. So if you've not been watching my channel, sitting back there is a 24 channel D command. That is my control surface historically for Pro Tools HD/Ultimate. Over in that rack over there, up until a couple of days ago, used to set an Avid Carbon. It has now been boxed up and has been sold on Reverb. Actually, a viewer from the show bought it. I think, ironically, he connected the dots between me selling it there and my name, and voila. Okay, so I hope you enjoy it. So it's on its way to him. And then so I've obviously replaced that with an interface. And so let's talk about the things that I considered in my interface. Now, some of this is going to be kind of unique to my situation here because, you know, I live in Central Florida and I have a home that has a pretty big lot. And in other words, I've got a separate detached garage that's just got a pool table and a refrigerator and some other things out there. So I plan to convert that over the next year to a tracking room. And so if you're like I am and you come from the old school to analog world, the only way I'm going to get signal, and I want to leave my control room here in the house where it is, and so I want to be able to put tracking out there, but I don't have to pick up a bunch of gear and go with it. So the only way to do that would be literally to run like a 16 channel snake from here all the way over there and bury it in the ground. Or, you know, I could just run one Cat6 Ethernet cable and have a gazillion channels if I needed them and explore the world of either Dante, AVB, or Maddie, okay? And so that's exactly what I did, and that's where I'm going, and that was really the key driver behind some of the decisions that I make. Now, the Carbon was AV, but it was closed and it was proprietary, so it was not expandable in that way, at least today. And you know Avid's going to screw over their users and make them continue to use a bunch of proprietary crap when you can get it for half the cost. It's just as good probably. But regardless of that, I wanted to be able to have units that would do that. So what first, I was really kind of compelled to go for the Focusrite Red series. I'm a big fan of those particular products, but they're incredibly difficult to find right now. And so ultimately I went to RME, had a local trade show here in Central Florida a few weeks back. And I went there and I explored all the options and really got to ask a lot of questions. That was really helpful for me. So ultimately I purchased an RME UFX Plus Thunderbolt/USB interface, okay, that is capable of Maddie, okay, and I believe Dante, but I'm not 100%, but Maddie for sure. Okay, and then next I will end up pairing that up. Now this is a purchase to be made down the road with the Ferrofish Plus 16 that has the Maddie option on it. Okay, Maddie/Dante option on it. That way I can run a single Ethernet cable from here in the studio, go outside. I've already got source to go outside on the other side of that wall over there. Go outside of that. Bury a conduit all the way around my backyard and run it out to my detached garage. And then out there, then I can put the Ferrofish 16 Plus out there, leave that connected via Maddie or Dante, whichever one I end up going with. And so ultimately leave that connected out there, and then have my microphone preamps out there. So you can just plug in out there, set levels, everything out there while you're in the space, then come back in here and go from there. So that's kind of the plan with that. Obviously, going with that, you can also do networked bass, headphone units, and things like that. So that was a big thing that was important for me. It's also going to enable me to get rid of all of my patch bays, because within RME's total mix, and at some point, oh my gosh, what a learning curve that is, all right? This thing is so powerful, it is absolutely ridiculous, all right? But there's a big learning curve, so I'm not in a position to really go into that yet. At some point, I'll kind of talk about that as I learn about it, but there is a big learning curve to go over, and it's, you know, it's almost like starting from scratch with everything, because I've abandoned Pro Tools. I'll talk about where I'm going there just in a second, okay? And so for now, I've landed on that RME, and that's where I'm going with this. And so I'm going to go all Matty and have a whole networked environment here to really allow me for future proofing, for one, which is important to me, because let's face it, an interface to me is a minimum of 10 years. I rarely upgrade an interface sooner than that. It would have to be massively compelling. And so it's better to kind of get in on the future, and I do see the future going that way for many different reasons. But anyway, that's where I've gone with that. And then also for that D command back there, now I've only got one unit right now, but I bought the SSL UF8, and I'm really liking it so far. You know, to some degree, it does not have the power of the D command. You can't expect it to have all of that. That would be a little unrealistic, because it's kind of restricted somewhat by the Mackie control, you know, universal drivers and things like that. So you've got somewhat limitations. They've got around some of them, but you can't get around all of those. And so, but I will tell you one thing that makes it easier. You know, when you get to the point you're at my age, you got to wear bifocals, and I'm kind of in that in between because I'm nearsighted. So I take my glasses off, I actually see better. I see up close pretty good. But if it's too far out, I find a hard time. So controlling plug-in parameters and everything on that D command was getting harder. I'd have to get up and lean over the console, where I didn't have to do that back when these eyes were stronger. But having that SSL UFA right in front of me now makes that so much easier. Now, I'm 90% there. That's what I'm going with. I'm going to keep it. And if I do, I'll at least buy another one, and then we'll go from there. What that's also going, so I've replaced my Carbon with my RME UFX Plus. I'm in the process of replacing my D command with a combination of SSL UF8s to be able to take over my needs there. I've really kind of changed over my monitoring control, because I no longer need to do the XMON and everything with the D command, because I can do all that within the RME. Total Mix is so ridiculously powerful. Lastly, I've left Pro Tools, and I'm probably 90% into Studio One. There are some things that just don't work as well on the UF8 with Studio One as they do with Logic and then Pro Tools. Well, Pro Tools is not an option for me, so with Logic, but so that's a kind of hit or miss, and I'm going to see if I can keep working on that to sort that out, but most likely I'm going to be Studio One. So that's going to be my transition. You know, today I've been working on set up hardware inserts and things like that into Studio One, learning how to do that within the Total Mix application for the RME UFX Plus. And so there's a lot to digest, but I kind of want to let you guys, I get a lot of these questions, so I kind of wanted to give everybody an update on where I am with that. Now, finally, what that's going to enable me to do is all of that 24-channel D command, and plus some rack gear on either side of it, is all in an Argosy series, 90 series Argosy desk. It was originally like almost $4,000 when it was first made. Again, I live in Central Florida, and there was a post-production facility going out of business up in Atlanta probably about 8 years or so ago, and they had the desk on there on Craigslist. And I said, look, man, if you sell it to me, I'll drive up and get it. I'll leave today. I'll be there tonight and load it up first thing in the morning and come back. If you'll sell it to me for $500. And they took $500, and I drove up. I rented a U-Haul and drove up there and brought it back. And so that's back there. Now, if you don't know that about those desks, they're meant to be modular, right? That's why you can use different desks in different configurations. So I've already modified some of it back there to be able to flush mount my BAE lunchbox into the top side of one of them because I only had a small section. That was a way to take advantage of that real estate. But I'm going to pull that back apart, and I'm pretty handy with woodworking, so I'm going to go in the shop and I'm going to ultimately reconfigure that to where I've got my UF8s here on the front section of it, and then I've got rack gear. So it'll be nothing but rack gear in front of me after that. And so that's something that's probably going to take me a couple of months to get the time and the actual everything I need to do to be able to do that. But that's another transition. So a lot of things going on here in the studio, and I'm going to try to document as much of as I can because I think people find that interesting. Or at least some of you do. So that's kind of a wrap up where I'm at today. Very, 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 very excited to leave the Avid ecosystem. I've been in it for decades at this point, a long time Pro Tools HD, HDX user here. And I'm just so excited to get away from it and not have to have that monkey on my back of having to pay that insane amount of money every year and get absolutely nothing for it, which is my issue with Avid, okay? So this is my transition. I hope you find this interesting. Until next time, well, let's just all have a great day. Bye-bye.